I love this line in the book, sort of tools for the art of living, if you will. I've come to think of virtues and rituals as spiritual technologies for being our best selves in flesh and blood, time and space. Talk about the use of that word technology.
Spiritual technologies.
Yeah.
I'm so fascinated by how we talk a lot and are very imaginative in the way we talk about, in fact, our technologies growing intelligent and growing sentient and growing conscious.
Yeah.
Yes. We possess intelligence, we possess consciousness, and we have this capacity as human beings to take this further step to become wise, which leavens intelligence. And I think has an ability to advance evolution in the direction we want it to go. I really do think that these tools and techniques, rituals, which I think physically we need, and virtues, which in fact are practices. And neuroscience is now giving new language to something that our spiritual traditions have carried forward in time, this intelligence that what we practice, we become. And that goes as much for becoming more patient, more loving, more compassionate, more generous, more wise.
I want to break that down a little bit because science is important to you. You interview
It's
a lot of
yes,
scientists
yes.
on being. Is that because, do you ever get accused of sort of being too fluffy? And is science and sort of neuroplasticity and the studies around how physically you're impacted by these practices, is that important to you you're a journalist, is that important to you to be able to speak to people in scientific terms?
I think that in the 21st century, scientists, physicists, evolutionary biologists, neuroscientists are walking some of the territory that philosophers and theologians walked in previous centuries. I mean, whether they are religious or not, whether their inquiry is explicitly spiritual or not, they are yielding this amazing new insight into these ancient questions, what it means to be human, how we want to live. Scientists are taking, virtues, they're taking notions like altruism and empathy and mindful attention into the laboratory.
What are they finding?
Well, they're kind of unlocking, some of these virtues, some of these practices and these pieces of intelligence, these tools for the arts of living that have been carried forward across millennia by our spiritual traditions. They are learning that these things actually do change people, on a physiological basis. And the science of neuroplasticity, which I think is one of the most wonderful and emboldening discoveries of our generation, that that our brains and characters don't stop forming at a certain point. That I think when I was growing up, you thought it's young adulthood, or in the teenage years. But we've now found that our brains and our characters can continue to evolve across the lifespan, and that we can influence that with our behaviors. And that discovery was deeply influenced by the work of Richard Davidson at Madison at the Brain Imaging Laboratory, who was approached in the 1990s by the Dalai Lama, who said to him, who has a great reverence for science, who said, I believe that these contemplative practices that my community engages in on this, that we weave into ordinary life, that they change us, and I want you to test that. And that was,
Love, compassion, forgiveness, some of the sort of tools for living. I mean, is what you're really saying that sort of being kind can actually make us healthier, can make our bodies stronger?
That is one of the things we're finding. That, for example, there's some amazing research about gratitude. Very simple practices of gratitude. This has been studied by clinical psychologists. Having people once a day or once a week make a list of things they were grateful for, even on the bad days, that it actually affects their health, that they sleep better, right? That they feel a sense of inner peace. So yes, there are actually physiological health benefits And there's a quality of life benefit that people report, which is harder to measure in a laboratory, but is real.